Sometimes, within a few miles of the cane fields, other farmers are cultivating very delicate, very special trees, usually planted under taller varieties of trees to protect them from direct sunlight. These are cocoa trees, and their seeds are the basis of all cocoa and chocolate products. The seeds, called cocoa beans, grow within these pods, which are about 6 to 10 inches in length. The correct scientific name for this fruit is Theobroma cacao, which means food of the gods. These unusual trees thrive within 20 degrees of the equator and have a continuous growth cycle. The fruit seems to be attached haphazardly because the tiny blossoms grow directly from the trunk or main branches instead of at the ends of smaller branches. This is nature's way of protecting the heavy clusters of ripened fruit, which need solid support. It takes 5 to 6 months for the pods to reach maturity, and harvesting techniques vary from region to region, from farm to farm. In many areas, the growing and marketing of cocoa beans is the prime source of income, and the small independent farmer, like his counterpart in other agricultural areas of the world, depends upon a good harvest. But since the trees have a continuous growth cycle, there is no 1 week or month when an entire crop is ready. The pods are cut down as they ripen. In some larger operations, the pods are collected and taken to a central station for opening. Often, as in this case, they're opened in the field with razor-sharp machetes. Working side by side, father and son efficiently strip the wet beans from the pods onto handy banana leaves. An expert worker can open 7 or 8 pods per minute, each one containing 30 to 40 cocoa beans, surrounded by a white pulp. Beasts of burden still play an important role in many cocoa-growing regions, as small farmers bring their beans to a central area for fermentation and drying. Here, payment is made by the box, a volume measurement that's equal to about 30 pounds of wet beans. The cocoa beans are then heaped into piles and allowed to ferment. Natural fermentation causes a chemical change in the pulp, which helps develop the color and flavor of the cocoa bean. It also hardens the skin of the bean into a protective shell, which will be removed later in the factory. The piles are covered with plantain or banana leaves to help contain the heat during the 5 to 6 day fermentation process. The fermented cocoa beans are then spread out to dry in the sun for 6 to 7 days. They are turned over regularly, and these drying platforms are built on tracks so that in the event of rain, they can be rolled under tin roofs for protection. The dried beans are less susceptible to disease and mold, and they are now ready for shipment overseas. A tropical port is a busy place, with a variety of agricultural produce being exported and an even wider variety of manufactured goods being imported. In larger ports, railroad tracks go right out onto the docks. The dried cocoa beans, now packed in 140-pound bags, are transferred from a boxcar to the hold of an ocean-going freighter. Destination, the United States of America. Cocoa beans, en route to the factory in Hershey, will arrive at one of our large East Coast ports of entry, often Philadelphia. The beans are quickly offloaded, and the first of a continuing series of quality assurance tests and inspections begins right here. With a device called a thief, samples are taken from each incoming shipment for laboratory analysis. Carloads of beans arrive at the factory throughout the year from the world's great cocoa-growing regions. Beans from Ghana and Nigeria, from Brazil and the Dominican Republic, from New Guinea and Malaysia, actually from more than a dozen different countries. And because each region produces a bean with its own distinctive flavor, each is delivered automatically from the rail siding to individual storage silos. The total capacity of this facility is 90 million pounds. And if you want to figure it out, you'll find that'll make a lot of chocolate bars. There's a constant flow of incoming ingredients, and acres of warehouse space are devoted to the storage of peanuts and almonds. Hershey uses huge quantities of almonds, some of them coming from the company's own groves in California. Peanuts arrive in even greater quantities. Thousands of tons a year from our southern and southwestern states pass through this warehouse to be used in a variety of products. In the research laboratories, this panel plays a significant role in determining how ingredients will be used. Which new product recipes will actually go into factory production? Being a member of the taste panel is an unusual job and a great responsibility, identifying and charting subtle differences in flavor, fragrance, texture. Of course, some formulations remain unchanged year after year, and the details of all of them are highly guarded secrets. Factory production schedules determine the quantities of specific ingredients that will be drawn from storage on any given day. Since 5 or 6 different types of chocolate may be in production at the same time, scheduling the flow of cocoa beans is especially complex. Beans are withdrawn from the storage silos according to type and origin. In an elaborate cleaning and sorting machine, currents of air and a series of sieves remove foreign matter. Then, they are routed by conveyor belt to a storage tank, which supplies the blending department. Here, proportions for specific recipes are programmed into the automatic blending machines. Each station introduces one type of bean to the continuous flow blending process. Precise quantities are measured in pounds per minute. In an extension of the continuous flow process, the blended beans travel through huge ovens. It's impossible to see inside, but dry roasting at temperatures over 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius develops the flavor and aroma of the beans. Then, in a completely enclosed process, the shell of the bean is removed and the inner meat is broken into fragments called nibs. Nibs of the various blends are transported to specified hoppers which feed the giant triple milling machines on the floor below. The roasted nibs have a natural cocoa butter content of about 55%, which is released during the milling process. The result is a free-flowing liquid. Traditionally, this has been called chocolate liquor, although it has no alcoholic content. All products made in the factory begin with this liquor. However, back before Milton Hershey went into business, it was discovered that chocolate beverages tasted better when the cocoa butter content of the liquor was reduced. So, in making cocoa and cocoa products today, these giant presses squeeze most of the cocoa butter out of the liquor. The butter is drained away and will be used in the making of milk chocolate. The dry cake that remains after the butter is squeezed out is pure cocoa. So the basic difference between cocoa and chocolate is the amount of cocoa butter present. The cake goes through several